Poppin', I'm Shy Ill. We back at it with Death at Disneyland, the infamous death of Marcelo Torres. If you have yet to subscribe to the channel, please do. And if you enjoy what I do, hit the like button. Let's get this algorithm popping. I was starting to worry that something was going to happen. We didn't have full crews. We couldn't do inspections like we should have been doing. I told my manager that the way they changed their maintenance was unsafe for guests. Is this another case of somebody cutting corners and quote-unquote inadvertently ending somebody's life early? Maybe.
On the 5th of September 2003, disaster struck at Disneyland on the Big Thunder Mountain roller coaster in an incident that sadly resulted in the death of 22-year-old Marcelo Torres in one of the park's most infamous and shocking cases of death. Almost overnight, sadness turned into anger after investigators released shocking information proving the incident should not only have never happened, but could have been prevented entirely. What happened that day would forever leave a stain on Disneyland's reputation and change safety regulations entirely. This is Death at Disneyland, the infamous death of Marcelo Torres.
Listen, I'm with Bobby Bacala from The Sopranos.
Everybody wants to get rich, but you don't scrimp on safety.
Mind your business, Bobby.
My baby girl is in that car. You owe me money, Paulie.
I owe you shit.
My wife's got nerve damage.
Cut two.
I'm not trusting these carnies, these dudes that come from town to town. These rides 30, 40 years old. Too many intangibles to be playing with. Now, do I enjoy the occasional roller coaster? Indeed, but all that.
Despite being a massive story at the time, little is known about the victim. We do know that Marcelo Torres was born to parents James and Carmen Torres on the 30th of August 1981 in Torrance, California. He was described as being a good and obedient kid. In his younger years, Marcelo attended high school in Arizona, where he was described as a role model to others. His friends said he never drank or smoked or did anything like that. He then moved on to Brooks College in Long Beach, California, where he was studying to become an animator, which was a passion that followed him throughout his life. It was here that Marcelo met Vicente Gutierrez, who would go on to become his business associate and best friend. On September the 5th, 2003, Marcelo and Vicente, along with their other friends Christina Becker and Shannon Zinder, decided to go to Disneyland for an unforgettable day. That day was unforgettable, but not in the way that they had hoped. On that day, the group of friends arrived at Disneyland, California, early on in the morning, and after riding a few other attractions, decided to go on the Big Thunder Mountain roller coaster.
I wonder how much liability Disney and Great America and Six Flags and all these people have when it comes to this.
Cut two.
Life is life. You plan on having a good day at the beach or plan on having a good day at the carnival. You plan on having a good day at the amusement park. Next thing you know, you're on a fucking flying cart that's flying off a roller coaster. Whose fault is that?
Big Thunder Mountain Railroad first opened on the 2nd of September 1979 and was designed by Tony Baxter and Bill Watkins. The ride goes up to 58 kilometers an hour and has a track length of 2,671 feet. There are 4 different versions located in different Disneyland parks, and the Big Thunder Mountain has always been one of Disney's most popular rides. The roller coaster has a detailed backstory with Western themes and is one of the tamer in the park, catering to people of all ages. There aren't any inversions or significant drops, but it moves rapidly and has a lot of dips and tight corners. There is a total of 5 trains and a locomotive. The locomotive was the train at the front and was purely cosmetic. Each car had 3 benches, and the safety restraint included a lap bar. 5 years prior to Marcelo riding, there had been an incident where a 5-year-old boy was seriously injured on the ride after his foot became wedged between the car and the platform. This led to his left foot being amputated.
Oh,
after this,
red flag number 1, Disney amputating 5-year-olds' ankles. That right there tells you shut it down, get rid of it, turn it off, don't get on it, leave it alone. It was a 5-year-old's ankle that got sacrificed in the process. This ride is the devil.
But Disneyland never acknowledged the injury to be the reason.
Cut two.
The safety on the ride was improved, but Disneyland never acknowledged the injury to be the reason.
So Walt Disney took a kid's foot and ankle, but didn't admit that it was because of him that ankle got took. It could have been anything. It wasn't the fact that we damaged his leg on this ride. His foot was ready to fall off already at 6 years old.
The 4 boarded train 2 on Big Thunder Mountain at some time in the morning. Marcelo was sat next to Vicente in the front of the car, which was behind the locomotive. He was sat on the right hand side. His 2 friends Christina and Shannon were sat directly behind them. The lap bar lowered and the ride set off.
with a huge,
Around 1/3 into the ride,
useless hunk of
the
shit in front of
locomotive
him.
which was in front of Marcelo and Vicente derailed before entering the tunnel.
See
The
that?
following comes from the Court of the State of California documents. The derail wheels slammed into the brakes attached to the floor between the rails. This impact forced the rear of the locomotive up and its nose down. When the front of the locomotive struck brake 4, the back shot upwards towards the ceiling of the tunnel. Violently breaking away from the cars as it pitched up, the locomotive slammed into the tunnel roof and came crashing down onto the first passenger car. The force of the impact crushed the fiberglass and metal frame of the car. In doing so, the entire weight of the locomotive crashed down on top of Marcelo Torres.
Marcelo Torres minding his business, going to Disneyland to get on a couple of rides. A useless locomotive that's there just for aesthetics gets jammed up in the works, shot up into the sky, and lands on the kid and kills him. Disney's gonna find a way out of this. I know it.
Cut 2.
And pinning his body to the seat. In short, the locomotive derailed, causing it to nosedive. The back end then hit the top of the tunnel, which then crashed down onto Marcelo, violently crushing him in the process. He was, however, still alive, but trapped in his seat. Despite paramedics' best efforts,
Oh, so according to Disney, anybody could have killed him.
he eventually bled out on the scene. 10 others were injured in the accident. Some of them managed to evacuate themselves, and others were sent to hospital. Vicente, who was riding next to Marcelo, said the last thing that he remembered was going through the tunnel. He said, "All of a sudden, I heard something really loud and shaky. I told myself, this isn't normal. I really thought it was a dream. I had 4 flashes, like I was in and out. I fainted, then woke up and fainted again. I saw Marcelo unconscious, then 2 of my other friends. It was a blur." After hearing his friend hadn't made it, he said he was devastated. The ride was then closed down, and an investigation was launched.
Should have closed it when you took the little 5-year-old's ankle.
The investigation brought up some shocking findings. Unknown to any of the park's guests that day, the Big Thunder Mountain was experiencing problems for weeks leading up to the 5th of September. This was known by Disney, the mechanics, and ride operators, but were ignored. The noises heard were clicking noises. 3 days before the incident, the maintenance team replaced an unstopped wheel on the ride, but inadequately tightened the bolts, resulting in a yellow warning light. The same warning light showed up on the day of the incident, but ride operators claimed that they didn't know what it meant, so carried on as usual. They also did test rides that day where they heard unusual noises and concluded that the ride should be shut down for safety reasons, but didn't, due to fear from upper management, so allowed guests to ride anyway.
You start cutting these corners. You want to look good to your bosses. You want your staff to get the job done and get what you want done. But you're putting people's lives at risk for your little bullshit job. You know what I'm saying? The families of these men should be able to soccer kick you to in a fucking padded room.
They also did test
Cutting
rides that day where they
corners,
heard
cutting
unusual noises
corners.
and concluded that the ride should be shut down for safety reasons, but didn't, due to fear from upper management, so allowed guests to ride anyway.
Upper management.
Investigators claim that the incident happened due to a mechanical failure, blaming ride operators, the mechanics, and Disney management. The report also stated that the ride was safe, but safety regulations had to change. Staff had to be completely retrained and take action if any unusual noise was heard. Wiley Aitken, that represented the Torres family, said,
They're saying that the ride is relatively safe, but because of the fact that y'all grossly didn't do your job, it all fell apart same time. If one of those things had happened that day, maybe it would have been such a bad accident. But it was all of those things that was falling apart coming together that killed that kid.
it was not just one mechanic making a mistake. This was really systemic
Yeah,
to how they were running the park. The Marcelo family rightfully sued Disneyland for wrongful death and settled their case for an undisclosed sum 2 years after the death of their son. After settling their case, the Torres family donated $500,000 to Brooks College to provide scholarships for aspiring animators like Marcelo. Marcelo's mother stated, "There is no money possible to pay for his life, ever. But that is the only remedy the law can provide. Now that this exhausting emotional process has finally concluded, and we have our answers, we will hopefully have some closure." Disney fully accepted responsibility for the disaster which claimed the life of Marcelo and injured 10 others. Their spokesman stated, "We all deeply regret that this tragic accident occurred. and are terribly saddened by the grievous pain this caused the Torres family. The ride opened again in 2004,
See, y'all wild.
and there have been no further incidents, but the death of Marcelo will forever be a haunting reminder of what can happen and go wrong when safety regulations are not followed or maintained.
So y'all feel that ride is safe enough to keep going. So basically it was just human error all around. If you feel that confident, that safe, after that ride then took a 5-year-old's ankle and took a grown man's life, you still managed to get that ride back on the tracks. So evidently, nothing wrong with the ride. There's something wrong with y'all. If you have yet to subscribe to the channel, please do. And if you enjoy what I do, hit the like button. Let's get this algorithm popping.